There is a certain kind of silence that follows a question no one else is asking. Picture a child, small and bright-eyed, standing at the edge of the playground. The other children swirl around in laughter and games, but this child lingers at the periphery, a book clutched tightly to their chest, eyes tracing patterns in the clouds that no one else seems to notice. Later, that child grows into an adult who sits in crowded rooms, their mind a river of restless thought, while the world around them drifts by in gentle, shallow currents. To be highly intelligent, we are told, is to be blessed, to be handed the keys to every locked door, to stride confidently through life's challenges. But what if the story is not so simple? What if behind the curtain of achievement and quick wit, there is a quieter, more complicated truth? We live in a world that worships intelligence. We celebrate the prodigy, the innovator, the one who always seems to have the right answer. We imagine that brilliance is a golden ticket, a guarantee of success, admiration, and ease. Yet, beneath the surface of this narrative, there is another reality, one rarely spoken aloud but deeply felt by those who live it. High intelligence can be a double-edged sword, a gift that glimmers in the light but casts long, lonely shadows. It can mean seeing connections others miss, but also feeling the ache of being perpetually out of sync. It can mean understanding the world in exquisite detail, but struggling to find someone who understands you. Is high intelligence truly a blessing, or does it come with invisible burdens? What is the cost of a mind that never stops, of a heart that feels the weight of every unspoken thought? These are questions that rarely make their way into conversation, questions that linger in the quiet moments when the world has gone to sleep and the mind is left alone with itself. In this exploration, we will step beyond the myth of the happy genius and into the hidden rooms of the mind, where loneliness, alienation, and the ache of being misunderstood dwell. Stay with me, because what we uncover may change the way you see yourself and the way you see intelligence itself. From the outside, the story of high intelligence is painted in broad, glossy strokes. It is the tale of the straight-A student who never seems to study, the quick-witted colleague who always has the answer, the innovator who turns ideas into gold. We are told, again and again, that smart people have it easy. They are the ones who breeze through exams, who solve problems with the flick of the wrist, who are admired, envied, and sometimes even resented for the effortless way they seem to move through life. Intelligence, in this narrative, is a kind of magic, an invisible hand that smooths every path and unlocks every door. This is the story we see in movies and hear in classrooms, the story that parents whisper to their children, "If you're smart, you'll go far." It is a story that equates intelligence with privilege, with opportunity, with happiness. The genius is cast as the hero, the one who stands at the top of the mountain looking down at the world with a knowing smile. We imagine that their lives are free from struggle, that their minds are a constant delight, that their only challenge is choosing which success to pursue next. But what if the story is more complicated? What if the surface is just that? A surface, smooth and unbroken, hiding everything that churns beneath. The stereotype of the happy genius is seductive, but it is also incomplete. It leaves no room for the quiet moments of doubt, for the loneliness that can come from seeing the world differently, for the pressure of expectations that grow heavier with every achievement. It does not account for the ways intelligence can isolate, or for the silent battles fought behind a mask of competence. For those who live with high intelligence, the surface story can feel like a cage. It is a narrative that dismisses struggle, that erases complexity, that leaves little space for vulnerability. If you have ever felt unseen in your difficulties, if you have ever wondered why your mind's gifts sometimes feel like burdens, know that you are not alone. The truth, as always, is deeper and more human than the stories we tell. And it is in that depth that we begin to find understanding. Beneath the polished surface of the gifted narrative lies a landscape far more intricate and shadowed. High intelligence, for all its promise, often comes with a quiet ache, a sense of being out of step with the world, of living at a different tempo. It is the experience of the child who answers questions too quickly in class, only to see confusion or annoyance flicker across their teacher's face. It is the teenager who learns to dim their light, to hide their curiosity, so they can blend in with peers who mistake enthusiasm for arrogance. It is the adult who sits at a dinner table, their mind leaping from idea to idea, while the conversation circles the same familiar ground, leaving them feeling stranded on an island of thought. Research in psychology has begun to illuminate these hidden costs. Studies on giftedness and high intelligence reveal a pattern. Those with exceptional cognitive abilities often struggle to find true peers, to feel understood, to connect in ways that feel authentic. The world can seem both too slow and too loud, filled with small talk that feels empty and expectations that feel impossibly high. This sense of otherness is not just imagined, it is woven into the fabric of many highly intelligent lives. Isolation is one of the most persistent shadows. When your mind is tuned to a different frequency, it can be hard to find resonance. Friendships may feel shallow, conversations unsatisfactory. The longing for connection is met with the reality of difference, a difference that is often invisible but deeply felt. Over time, this can lead to a kind of existential loneliness, a sense that no one else quite sees the world as you do or feels its weight in the same way. Then there is the burden of overthinking. High intelligence brings with it a mind that rarely rests, that turns over every possibility, every nuance, every potential outcome. What might be a simple decision for others becomes a labyrinth of considerations. This can lead to analysis paralysis, to anxiety, to a constant hum of mental activity that is both exhilarating and exhausting. The mind becomes both a sanctuary and a prison, a place of endless exploration and relentless self-interrogation. Perfectionism is another hidden cost. When you are used to excelling, to being praised for your abilities, the fear of falling short can become overwhelming. Every mistake feels magnified, every flaw a threat to the identity you have built. The pressure to live up to your potential, to always be the smartest, the quickest, the best, can be suffocating. It is a pressure that is often internalized, but also reinforced by the expectations of others, parents, teachers, colleagues, even friends. Consider the student who learns to hide their abilities, answering questions with hesitation or feigned uncertainty just to avoid standing out. Or the adult who finds themselves drifting through conversations, unable to share the thoughts that truly animate them because experience has taught them that depth is often met with discomfort or dismissal. These are not rare stories, they are the quiet reality for many who live with high intelligence. Understanding these hidden costs is not just an act of empathy, it is a doorway to transformation. When we see the full picture, we begin to recognize the humanity behind the gift. We see that intelligence is not just a measure of ability, but a complex, deeply felt way of being in the world. And in that recognition, we find the possibility of compassion for ourselves and for those whose minds move in mysterious, beautiful ways. To understand the hidden cost of high intelligence, we must look beyond the surface and into the intricate architecture of the mind. Intelligence is not a single shining trait, but a constellation of sensitivities, drives, and vulnerabilities that shape how a person experiences the world. The myth of the happy genius is seductive, a mind that soars above the ordinary, untouched by doubt or pain. But the reality is far more nuanced and far more human. One of the most illuminating frameworks for understanding the inner world of highly intelligent individuals comes from the work of Kazimierz Dabrowski, a Polish psychologist who introduced the concept of overexcitabilities. Dabrowski observed that gifted individuals often experience the world with heightened intensity, not just intellectually, but emotionally, imaginatively, and physically. Intellectual overexcitability manifests as a relentless curiosity, a hunger for knowledge, and a mind that never stops questioning. Emotional overexcitability brings deep empathy, powerful feelings, and a capacity for joy and sorrow that can be overwhelming. These sensitivities are not flaws, they are the very soil in which creativity and insight grow. Yet they can also make life feel raw, unpredictable, and exhausting. This heightened sensitivity often leads to social alienation. When your mind is tuned to a different frequency, finding true peers can feel like searching for a rare language spoken by only a handful of people. The pain of being too much or too different is real. Many highly intelligent people learn to mask their intensity, to shrink themselves in order to fit in. They may become chameleons, adapting to the expectations of others, or they may retreat into solitude, where their thoughts can roam free. The loneliness that results is not just a lack of company, but a longing for genuine connection, a desire to be seen and understood in all one's complexity. Imposter syndrome is another paradox that haunts the gifted. Despite evidence of their abilities, many highly intelligent individuals are plagued by self-doubt. They fear being exposed as frauds, attributing their successes to luck or circumstance rather than talent. This phenomenon has been well documented in psychological research, and it is especially prevalent among those who set high standards for themselves. The more they achieve, the more they fear that they are only one mistake away from being unmasked. This internal struggle can be paralyzing, leading to anxiety, procrastination, and a reluctance to take risks. Perfectionism and fear of failure are close companions to imposter syndrome. When excellence becomes the expectation, anything less feels like a catastrophe. The pressure to always excel can be suffocating, turning every challenge into a test of worth. Mistakes are not just setbacks, they are threats to identity. This relentless drive for perfection can lead to burnout, chronic stress, and a sense of never being enough. It can also stifle creativity, as the fear of making a wrong move outweighs the joy of exploration. Beneath all these struggles lies a deeper existential loneliness. Highly intelligent individuals are often acutely aware of life's complexities, its ambiguities and uncertainties. They see the world in shades of gray where others see black and white. This awareness can lead to profound insight, but it can also bring anxiety and melancholy. The search for meaning becomes a lifelong quest, and the answers are rarely simple or satisfying. As psychologist Irvin Yalom writes, the capacity to tolerate uncertainty is a prerequisite for a meaningful life. For the highly intelligent, this uncertainty is both a gift and a burden. Research supports these observations. Studies have found that gifted individuals are more likely to experience anxiety, depression, and existential concerns than their peers. They are also more likely to report feeling misunderstood, isolated, or out of place. Yet, these same studies reveal a remarkable resilience, a capacity for self-reflection, adaptation, and growth. The very traits that make life challenging also make it rich with possibility. The myth of the happy genius dissolves under the weight of these realities. High intelligence is not a shield against struggle. It is a lens that magnifies both the beauty and the pain of existence. But within this complexity lies the potential for deep self-compassion. When we understand the psychological mechanisms at play, we can begin to see our struggles not as failures, but as natural responses to a unique way of being in the world. We can learn to honor our sensitivities, to embrace our doubts, and to find meaning in the questions that have no easy answers. These insights are not just for the gifted, they are for anyone who has ever felt out of place, who has ever questioned their worth, who has ever longed for understanding. By exploring the psychology behind high intelligence, we unlock the possibility of a gentler, more accepting relationship with ourselves. And in that acceptance, we find the freedom to be both brilliant and beautifully, imperfectly human. Imagine a child named Eli sitting in the back row of a sunlit classroom, his hand half raised, then slowly lowered. He knows the answer, he always does, but he's learned that knowing too much can draw the wrong kind of attention. At home, words spill from him in torrents, his questions tumbling over one another, but at school, he edits himself. He swaps exhilarating for fun, melancholy for sad. He watches the other children, their laughter easy, their games simple, and wonders why his mind feels like a river in flood, always rushing, always searching for new banks to overflow. He wants to belong, so he builds a dam, letting only a trickle of his true self seep through. The ache of hiding is quiet but constant, a longing to be seen, not just noticed. Years later, Eli has grown into an adult, and the world has grown no less bewildering. At a friend's birthday party, he stands at the edge of a circle, listening to conversations that skim the surface of things. The talk is of weather, work, weekend plans. He tries to join in, but his thoughts are always a few steps ahead, leaping from the mundane to the profound. He wonders about the nature of happiness, the architecture of memory, the way time folds and unfolds in the mind. But when he shares these musings, the room grows quiet, eyes dart away, and someone changes the subject. He feels out of sync, as if he's dancing to a rhythm no one else can hear. The loneliness is not from lack of company, but from the absence of resonance, a sense that his frequency is just slightly off from the rest of the world. Then there is Mira, a creative soul whose mind is a kaleidoscope of ideas. She wakes each morning with 1,000 possibilities swirling in her head, novels to write, paintings to paint, inventions to build. But the abundance is overwhelming. Each idea branches into 10 more, and soon she is paralyzed by choice, unable to settle on a single path. Her notebooks are filled with beginnings, her studio with half-finished canvases. Marvel at her talent, but she feels the weight of unrealized potential pressing down on her. The mind that could be a garden of creation sometimes feels like a tangled forest, impossible to navigate. She wonders if others feel this way, or if her struggle is a secret she must carry alone. These stories are not rare. They echo in the lives of many who carry the gift and burden of high intelligence. There's the student who learns to hide their vocabulary, the adult who feels perpetually out of step, the artist overwhelmed by the sheer volume of their own imagination. There's the quiet pain of being told, "You think too much," as if thought itself were a flaw to be corrected. There is the frustration of being misunderstood, of having one's depth mistaken for distance, one's curiosity for arrogance. But within these stories, there is also resilience. Eli, despite his loneliness, finds solace in books and music, in the rare conversations that spark and crackle with shared understanding. He learns to seek out those who speak his language, even if they are few and far between. Mira, in her tangled forest of ideas, discovers that creativity is not about finishing every project, but about honoring the wildness of her mind. She learns to celebrate the process, to find beauty in the unfinished, the imperfect, the possible. And perhaps most importantly, there is the slow, hard-won realization that being different is not a defect. The mind, like a river in flood, is also a source of life, carving new paths, nourishing new growth. The sense of being out of sync is, in its own way, a kind of music, a rhythm that, once embraced, can lead to unexpected harmony. If you see yourself in these stories, know that you are not alone. The struggles you face are not signs of weakness, but evidence of a mind and heart attuned to the world's complexity. There is no shame in feeling deeply, in thinking widely, in longing for connection that goes beyond the surface. These lived experiences are not just burdens to bear, but threads that bind us together in a tapestry of shared humanity. In telling these stories, we make the invisible visible, and in seeing ourselves reflected, we begin to heal. There is a particular kind of pain that comes not from what is said, but from what is assumed. For those with high intelligence, misunderstanding is a shadow that follows closely, shaping how others see them and, in time, how they see themselves. Too often, a quick mind is mistaken for arrogance, a quiet moment for aloofness, a passionate response for being too sensitive. These labels are not just words, they are walls separating the individual from the world they long to join. When intelligence is misread as superiority, the result is isolation. The person who asks deeper questions or offers a different perspective is met with rolled eyes or dismissive laughter. Over time, the message becomes clear. It is safer to stay silent, to hide the parts of oneself that do not fit the mold. The cost is not just loneliness, but a slow erosion of self-trust. Doubt creeps in. Maybe I am too much. Maybe I am too different. Maybe I should be less. The vibrant inner world that once felt like a gift begins to feel like a liability. This pressure to mask one's true self is exhausting. It means constantly editing thoughts, measuring words, and shrinking dreams to fit the comfort of others. The emotional toll is heavy: anxiety, self-doubt, and a persistent sense of being unseen. The longing for authentic connection is met with the reality of missed opportunities, friendships that never deepen, collaborations that never spark, growth that never takes root. The world loses not only the individual's gifts, but also the possibility of genuine understanding and shared discovery. Without insight and compassion, these cycles of misunderstanding repeat themselves, generation after generation. The child who hides their light becomes the adult who doubts their worth, and the world remains a little dimmer for it. But it does not have to be this way. Recognizing the cost of misunderstanding is the first step toward breaking the cycle. It is an invitation to look beyond the surface, to see the person behind the label, and to create space for difference to be not just tolerated, but celebrated. Without this shift, we risk leaving the most sensitive, creative, and insightful among us stranded on the margins, when what they need, and what we all need, is to be welcomed home. Change often begins in the quietest of moments. A pause between thoughts, a sudden clarity in the midst of confusion. For many with high intelligence, the turning point arrives not with fanfare, but with a gentle, persistent ache. The realization that the loneliness they feel is not a personal failing, but a pattern woven through their experiences. It is the moment when the weight of isolation becomes too heavy to carry alone, and the longing for connection outgrows the fear of being misunderstood. Imagine standing at the edge of a wide chasm, the world you know on one side, the world you long for on the other. For years, you have watched others cross with ease, while you remain rooted, convinced that your difference is a barrier too vast to bridge. But then, something shifts. Perhaps it is a conversation with someone who truly listens, or a book that puts your secret feelings into words, or the discovery of a community where your quirks are not just accepted, but celebrated. In that moment, the first plank is laid across the divide, a bridge built not of certainty, but of hope. Research on neurodiversity reminds us that difference is not deficiency. The mind that moves in unexpected ways is not broken, it is simply tuned to a different frequency. Finding one's tribe, those rare souls who resonate with your thoughts, who delight in your intensity, who see your questions as invitations rather than challenges, can be transformative. It is in these connections that the ache of isolation begins to soften, replaced by the warmth of recognition. The journey is not always easy. Old patterns tug at the edges of new beginnings, and the fear of rejection lingers. But with each step across the bridge, self-compassion grows. The realization dawns that you are not alone in your struggles, that your longing for understanding is shared by many. The first spark of hope becomes a steady flame, illuminating the path forward. Transformation does not erase difference, it honors it. It is the courage to reach out, to risk vulnerability, to believe that connection is possible. In this turning point, the story of high intelligence shifts from one of exile to one of belonging, a journey not just toward others, but toward a kinder, truer relationship with oneself. The journey from isolation to belonging is not a single leap, but a series of small, intentional steps. For those who have felt the hidden cost of high intelligence, the path forward is not about changing who you are, but about learning to honor your mind's unique rhythms and needs. Here, we gather practical tools, each one a stepping stone, designed to help you move from self-doubt to self-acceptance, from loneliness to connection. Begin with self-reflection, the gentle act of turning inward. Ask yourself, when do I feel most alone in my intelligence? Is it in crowded rooms where conversation skims the surface? Is it in moments of creative overwhelm when ideas outpace action? Or is it in the quiet, when your thoughts spiral into questions no one else seems to ask? Journaling can be a powerful companion here. Write without judgment, letting your mind wander freely. Notice patterns, recurring themes, persistent aches, small joys. Over time, these reflections become a map, revealing not just where you feel most isolated, but also where you feel most alive. Finding community is the next vital step. The world is vast, and somewhere within it are others who share your frequency. Seek out spaces where depth is welcomed, book clubs that discuss ideas rather than just plots, creative circles that celebrate curiosity, online forums for gifted adults, or local meetups for neurodiverse thinkers. Sometimes connection is found in the most unexpected places, a conversation with a stranger who gets it, a mentor who sees your potential, a friend who delights in your tangents. Remember, you do not need a crowd. Even one true connection can be transformative. Research shows that a sense of belonging, even with a small group, can dramatically improve well-being and self-esteem. Emotional regulation is essential for navigating the intensity that often accompanies high intelligence. Mindfulness practices such as meditation, deep breathing, or simply pausing to notice your senses can help ground you when your thoughts race or emotions surge. Journaling, again, offers a safe space to process feelings that may be too complex or intense to share aloud. Self-compassion is the thread that weaves through all of this. Treat your mind as you would a dear friend, with patience and kindness. When perfectionism or self-criticism arises, gently remind yourself that struggle is not a sign of failure, but a part of being deeply engaged with life. Communication skills are another powerful tool. Expressing your needs and boundaries is not selfish, it is an act of self-respect. Practice articulating what you need in relationships, whether it's more depth in conversation, time alone to recharge, or understanding when you become overwhelmed. Learning to code switch, to adjust your language or approach depending on your audience, can be useful, but it should never come at the cost of authenticity. The goal is not to hide your true self, but to find ways to connect without self-betrayal. Sometimes this means seeking out those rare spaces where you can be fully, unapologetically yourself. Therapeutic support can be invaluable, especially when the weight of isolation or perfectionism becomes too heavy to bear alone. Look for therapists who are familiar with giftedness, high sensitivity, or neurodiversity. These professionals can help you untangle the knots of imposter syndrome, manage anxiety, and develop strategies for self-acceptance. Therapy is not about fixing what is different, but about understanding and embracing it. Group therapy or support groups for gifted adults can also offer a sense of shared experience and validation. Alongside these tools, remember the importance of celebration. Too often, the focus is on what is difficult or different. Make space to honor your mind's gifts, the insights that surprise you, the creativity that flows, the connections you make between seemingly unrelated things. Celebrate the moments when your intensity leads to beauty, when your curiosity uncovers something new, when your sensitivity brings comfort to another. These are not just side effects of intelligence, they are its truest expressions. Change is possible, and it begins with small acts of courage. Reaching out, speaking up, letting yourself be seen. The tools you use are not just strategies for survival, but invitations to thrive. Each step you take toward reflection, community, regulation, communication, or support brings you closer to a life where your intelligence is not a burden to bear, but a gift to share. If you have ever wondered whether real, lasting change is possible, let this be your answer. Yes. The journey is ongoing and there will be setbacks, but every effort you make to understand and honor yourself is a victory. In time, the sense of belonging you seek will grow, not just with others, but within yourself. And in that belonging, you will find not only acceptance, but the freedom to be fully, brilliantly, and unapologetically you. There is a quiet strength in those who carry the weight of high intelligence, a strength that is often overlooked even by those who possess it. The very qualities that once felt like burdens begin, with time and understanding, to reveal themselves as rare gifts. The depth that leads to loneliness is also the wellspring of profound insight. The sensitivity that once seemed overwhelming is the root of true empathy. The sense of being out of sync is in truth a testament to a mind that sees the world in ways others cannot. To live authentically with high intelligence is an act of courage. It means daring to be different in a world that often rewards sameness. It means holding on to your questions, your passions, your wild, unfiltered thoughts, even when they are misunderstood. It means embracing the full spectrum of your experience, the joy and the sorrow, the clarity and the confusion, without apology. This is not weakness, it is resilience. It is the ability to keep showing up, to keep searching for meaning, to keep reaching for connection, even when the path is lonely. The gifts of high intelligence are not just intellectual, they are creative. The ability to imagine new worlds, to see patterns where others see chaos, to dream beyond the boundaries of the ordinary. They are emotional, the capacity to feel deeply, to care fiercely, to offer comfort and understanding to those who need it most. They are resilient, the strength to endure misunderstanding, to rise after disappointment, to keep moving forward with hope. If you have ever felt ashamed of your difference, let this be your invitation to reframe your story. What you carry is not a flaw, but a form of wisdom. The world needs minds that question, hearts that feel, spirits that refuse to settle for easy answers. Your perspective is not just valid, it is vital. In your quiet strength, there is a power that can change not only your own life, but the lives of those around you. Stand tall in your uniqueness. Let your mind and heart be seen. You belong, not in spite of your difference, but because of it. We have traveled together from the surface story of high intelligence, the myth of effortless success and easy belonging, into the hidden chambers where loneliness, doubt, and longing quietly reside. We have seen how the world's misunderstanding can cast shadows, how the ache of being different can lead to silence, and how the mind's gifts can sometimes feel like burdens too heavy to name. Yet, in peeling back these layers, we have also uncovered something luminous, the quiet strength that lives at the heart of difference. To think deeply is to feel deeply. The mind that questions, the dreams, that refuses to settle for the obvious, is also the heart that aches for meaning and connection. The journey from isolation to insight is not a straight line, but a spiral. Each turn bringing us closer to self-understanding, each challenge inviting us to see our struggles as signs of depth, not deficiency. In this light, the very things that once set us apart become bridges to others, invitations to a richer, more authentic life. To be different is to be needed. The world is shaped by those who see what others overlook, who ask the questions that unsettle and inspire, who feel the world's beauty and pain with equal intensity. Your intelligence is not a wall that separates you, but a lantern in the dark, a beacon for others who are searching, a guide for those who have not yet found their voice. When you embrace your mind's complexity, you give others permission to do the same. When you honor your sensitivity, you create space for true connection. So let this be your reminder. Your mind is not a burden, it is a lantern in the dark. The path you walk, though sometimes lonely, is also lined with possibility. Every moment of doubt, every pang of otherness is proof of your capacity to feel, to wonder, to create. Embrace your intelligence, not as something to hide, but as a source of meaning, connection, and quiet power. In doing so, you not only find your place in the world, you help to light the way for others.